From the moment that he was introduced, Kawaki is a character that Naruto fans have been eagerly waiting more information about. He's either a character that you love or he's a character that you hate. And with the newest release of Boruto Chapter 24, we've gotten a lot of information about Kawaki. In fact, in the last two Boruto chapters, they've been very Kawaki-centric in my opinion. Kawaki has clearly been the highlights, and I want to go ahead and take the time now to say that if you're an anime-only viewer, this video might not be the video for you to check out. There are other videos on the channel that you could watch without getting spoiled about the Boruto series. I read the comments in my Kashin Koji videos last month, and so I know a lot of you guys did not like the fact I was openly talking about spoilers from the Boruto manga that will eventually pop up in the anime without giving a spoiler warning. So I'm going to take this monologue now as an opportunity to give you just that time. So if you're still here on the video, I'm assuming that you're perfectly okay with me discussing spoilers. Now, in Boruto Chapter 24, we found out what I feel is one of the most heartbreaking stories by any character in the Naruto series. And let's not get it twisted. When it comes to the world of Naruto, just about every character has a tragic backstory. I mean, the only one who doesn't have a tragic backstory is Tenten, and arguably you could say that Tenten getting beaten by Tamari off panel in the manga and not getting any opportunity to fight against her in the Chunin exams is pretty damn tragic in itself, or maybe you could just say that was pretty damn comical. But when you look at the character of Kawaki, his backstory doesn't necessarily hit you with the heartstrings like Haku's backstory did, where you found out that just having a Kekkei Genkai in his village, in his country, was enough that he basically lost his family. He basically became an orphan and was basically seen by Zabuza as a tool, but Zabuza over time grew to love Haku, so he did in a way get a happy ending. But when you look at the character Kawaki, I don't think that there's a happy ending to him, because over and over and over you hear the members of Kara, especially his, wait for it, his adopted father in Jigen, look at Kawaki as just being a vessel, as being an object. And it is something that is hammered home repeatedly over the last couple of chapters. And really, when you go back to when Kashin Koji and Kara were first introduced into the Boruto series, somewhere around chapter 15 or 16, they've been slowly dehumanizing Kawaki as a character long before he officially made his debut in this part of the timeline. And the reason why I think that that's very interesting is the fact that we find out that Kodachi took the opposite route of Kishimoto. Kishimoto, when it came to fathers, made it very clear that a father's love for his child was something that is the greatest thing that you could ever see. You saw it with the parents of Naruto and Sasuke. You saw it where Minato had the opportunity to live, but instead he said, well, my son, he's gonna go through a hard time being a Jinchuriki, but I trust him to be able to overcome this hatred, and I trust him to be able to stop this masked man who at the time Minato believed would actually be Madoru Uchiha, and he believed that Naruto would be that child of prophecy that Jiraiya was talking about, and that was a pretty good call on that end. But you have to remember, Minato had the opportunity to actually be alive and raise Naruto, and I've done a couple of what ifs where that scenario actually takes place. But on the flip side, when you look at Fugaku Uchiha, it's the same thing there. He trusted that Itachi's vision for the Uchiha clan, his vision that Sasuke would be the one who could restore the honor to the Uchiha clan's name, and that Sasuke would be the one who could eventually get the Uchiha clan over that bit of hatred, that curse that lingers around the clan. Fugaku gave up his own desires to rebel against the village, and he trusted in both of his sons. And so when you look at that, and you look at Jiraiya, how Jiraiya as godfather to Naruto managed to give his life and do so in a way that it pushed Naruto's growth, then on the flip side, when you look at Kawaki, it's the exact opposite. His father, his real father, his birth father, when he first meets Jigen, when we first see them interact in the Boruto manga, you find out that Kawaki's father willingly sold Kawaki to the Kara organization. And to put this into perspective for you, I want you guys to think of it in this manner. That would be something akin to maybe Minato or the third Hokage selling Naruto to the Akatsuki, to an organization that's not going to view him as being a human being, or something a little less extreme. That would be like Hiruzen Sarutobi telling Danzo, you can take charge over Naruto Uzumaki. I'm not going to keep him in an orphanage. Instead, you can raise him in root. You can have total say over the fate of the Jinchuriki of Naruto Uzumaki. And we find out that Kawaki went from a bad situation to a potentially worse situation, because what you find out in this chapter, and the reason why it's so heartbreaking, is Kawaki's father was beating on Kawaki, so much so that he says, I don't even see him like my son. He's just a punching bag. And when Jigen pays him for Kawaki, he says, oh wow, you're like a god to me. And that is so interesting. And on the other side, what's very sad about that is Kawaki, in a way, is being treated like a slave, because he's treated like property. Way back a few hundred years ago, a couple hundred years ago, when you had slaves being sold in North America, just in the slave trade, and as far as with the triangle and all that, and just going back before that, people were seen as property. And when you look at that, and you look at the fact that as Jigen is walking up towards Kawaki in the manga, on one hand you could say, well, when he says, I'm your adopted father, that maybe that's like Jigen kind of sizing him up, and he did say some kind of encouraging things to him. But at the same time, the vibe I got when I was looking at how Jigen was looking at Kawaki, it was more like that of a slave master looking at this slave that he just bought and thinking to himself, I could get a good return on my investment here. And that's essentially what we've seen with Kawaki, because we find out that the Kara organization, they were trying to get him back, but he was also that vessel that was in that little pod that Konohamaru was trying to retrieve, or the one that Konohamaru found and that Owl was trying to retrieve. And the other thing that you find out is that at some point off panel, Kawaki has definitely been fighting with the members of the Kara organization, and they could very well be the reason why he has that mark on his hand, that karma seal. And what I find interesting is that it gets revealed that Kawaki had actually been fighting against different members of the Kara organization and might have potentially messed up one of their jaws. But what's interesting about that is the fact that it's his adoptive father who is the one behind all of this, and that's what makes that so tragic and so messed up. And I do want to acknowledge this right here, right? Like, in the Naruto series, you've seen characters like Hinata basically get disowned by her father. You saw it where Hiashi looked at Kurenai and said, yeah, you can have Hinata. Sure, she might be the official heir to the Yuga clan, but let's just be real here. Her little sister has been whooping her ass. Her little sister has more potential. I don't care if the life of a ninja, the life of a kunoichi, is something that could see my oldest daughter being killed in action at some point. She's useless to me. You go ahead and take her. And that's something, I know the manga touched on it briefly, but for the most part the anime added some filler, if I'm not mistaken, in the original Naruto series. And what I find interesting about that is that that's maybe the exact same tone that Jigen took with Kawaki, because he doesn't seem very worried about the fact that his adopted son is out there in the world and that he hasn't seen him for a while. In fact, he just continues to refer to him as less than an object, in the same way that Hiashi was looking at Hinata. But at the flip side of that is Hiashi still cared about his daughter Hinata. So that's what I find interesting about that. But what are your thoughts on this matter, guys? Do you think that Kawaki's backstory is more cookie cutter? Do you think it's something that we've just seen too much in the Naruto series? Or are you more on the side where I am, where on one hand it is reaching for the low-hanging fruit, because it is a trope we've seen a bunch of times, abusive family members. You saw it in, I believe, Attack on Titan with Mikasa's situation, where I don't think it was her mother who was abusive. I think it was like the stepfather or something, because Mikasa and her mother were seen as Asians, and they were very rare during that time period where Attack on Titan takes place. And forgive me if I've got that wrong, because it's been a while since I've actually kept up with the Attack on Titan manga and read that first volume where that was introduced. But I do want to acknowledge, again, it is something we've seen, but I just think that the delivery and just the drastic tonal change that the Boruto manga has taken is something that is very much worthwhile and very much worth kind of checking out, especially when you compare it to Boruto and Kawaki and how they're kind of brought up. And that's something that I'll talk about in another video if I haven't already published that video. I'm still deciding which of these videos I'm going to put up first. But as always, guys, if you like anything I had to say, don't forget to comment, rate, subscribe, share. Thank you so much for watching to the end of the video, guys. Have an awesome day.